Hi everyone, this is our channel, Around My Story. Please like, share and subscribe.
You know, sometimes the truth is even stranger than fiction, especially if you had a dark secret in your life that would put you in danger if it were exposed. Such was my case, and this is my story. My name is Charlotte, and I'm 17 years old. I live with my mom. My dad passed away before I was born, so my mom had to raise me all by herself. My mom knew everything about me. My school studies, my friends. She had certain rules that I was supposed to follow, like eating outdoors was forbidden, and I can't be friends with someone unless she knew everything about them first, and so on. I thought these rules were somewhat paranoid, and I asked her why she placed such restrictions on making friends. Her reply was simply that you can't trust anyone nowadays. But that wasn't a very satisfying answer. And when I asked her what it meant, she didn't say anything further. As I was growing up, these rules mystified me even more, and I couldn't help but wonder if they had anything to do with my father, whom I knew nothing about. Mom always said he was a troublemaker, and she told me that everything would be clear to me in time. One holiday, I joined a new band. We held a lot of concerts. It was the best. I was good at playing music and singing. When we went camping, we met some students from other countries. We made a lot of new friends and had fun together. We even had a chance to increase our band's fame and reputation. After our first performance at camp, an Asian girl approached me. She hugged me, saying, "Charlotte, I missed you a lot." Taken aback, I asked, "Do I know you?" She surprised me again by saying, "Don't you recognize me? I'm Mary, your friend." I smiled and replied, "You must be mistaken. I don't know you." After insisting that she was indeed my friend, she excused herself and ran back to join her friends. Weird. Though, now that I think about it, I have often had an eerie feeling that someone was watching me wherever I went. I tried to shake off this feeling many occasions, but I never could. I would just tell myself that it must be my imagination. That night, we all went into the jungle. It was a jungle tour. It was very dark, and I got separated from the group and found myself alone, surrounded by trees. I called out to my friends, but no one heard me. Suddenly, I bumped into someone, a girl it seemed, and I apologized. When I turned around to look at her, I was shocked to see, well, myself, or my double. It was as if I was looking in a mirror. "Who are you?" I asked. "I'm Charlotte," she replied simply. "That's impossible. I'm Charlotte," I said assertively. "Are you with us here at the campsite?" "Yes," she said. I asked her which way back to the campsite. She pointed in one direction and we headed back. As we were walking, her phone rang. It was her father. He was worried about her and was just making sure she was okay. We arrived at our tents without incidents, and I said, "It was really nice to meet you, Charlotte. I'll see you tomorrow." I felt a strong connection to the girl for some reason. Then I realized that I had forgotten my bag, and I went to get it. And again, I had that ominous feeling that I'm being watched. Suddenly, something hit me on the head. When I woke up, I found myself sitting in a car, surrounded by people wearing sunglasses, and I was really frightened. "Who are you people?" I demanded to know. "And what do you want from me?" One man told me that my dad was the reason they kidnapped me. When I told him that my dad had died a long time ago, he just laughed. Then he sprayed something on my face and I lost consciousness. When I woke up later, the other Charlotte was tied up beside me. One of the men seemed confused, seeing two of me, and he asked his boss which of us was the girl they were looking for. Suddenly, I heard someone shout, "Freeze! Don't move!" The police had come. They came out from the tree line. Surrounding the car, they arrested the men. Then they untied us both. Someone appeared looking very worried. The other Charlotte started coming too, and asked where she was and what was going on. Then she saw her dad, and she ran to him. Her dad then looked at me and asked for my name and my mother's name. When I told him, he said he knew who I was, and said to send his regards to my mom, and to tell her that he was still keeping her secret. Then he gave me a medal and hugged me, saying that he wasn't sure if we would ever meet again. I was still staring at him, looking confused, so he smiled and he asked me where my father was. And I told him. that my father was dead. And then he said that that was their agreement. He and my mom, that he was only trying to protect me and the other Charlotte, who happened to be my twin sister. He said he got into some trouble in his line of work. Some people threatened to kill us, so he and my mom decided to split us up. She took you, and I took your twin sister, he said. We did this to keep you safe. I named your twin Charlotte, just the same as you. I was still feeling a bit overwhelmed at this point. This was preposterous. I couldn't believe it. Suddenly, I heard someone calling me. Charlotte, wake up! It's time for a trip. You must have been having a nightmare because you were screaming. I woke up to find myself in the tent with my friend. When I went outside the tent, I stopped. Right in front of me, staring me in the eyes, was a girl who was my mirror image.
Love what you do until you can do what you love. This is a famous quote that inspires people to seek out their dream job. I heard that quote at school before I graduated and entered the working world. What's that, you ask? Was I successful in achieving my dream? Well, I came this close. Let me tell you about it. My name is Max and I'm 19 years old. Poverty and I are intimate friends and constant companions. I live in one of the poorest neighborhoods in my city. Most of the local citizens work at the seaport. The rest of us, we make a living by scavenging through and collecting rubbish. But I wasn't just an ordinary rubbish collector. No, sir, I was a specialist in that field, like my dad before me. Dad taught my brothers and me how to do it expertly. This is how it worked. Factories liked to use recycled materials to reduce the cost of buying new materials, so we would go to the city rubbish pile and separate out materials into different piles, such as plastics, glass bottles, milk cartons, tin cans, and so on. Then we would sell those materials to factories for reuse in making their products. This recycling process saved the factories a ton of money, but unfortunately, that didn't translate into a ton of money for us rubbish collectors. I had a dream one day of opening my own factory and just sitting back and watching the money flow in. When I told Dad that, he told me that good fortune only happens for a select few people. After hearing those words, I went to bed and dreamed about my future factory. Little did I suspect that my dream might actually come true someday. One day after working late collecting rubbish, while on the way home, I suddenly heard voices coming from a large rubbish pile in front of my home. It seemed that people were using that pile as a place of business to sell drugs and booze. An argument was brewing between two groups. Each group were wielding sticks and knives as makeshift weapons. One guy in Group A had a gun and shot someone in Group B, so someone in Group B stabbed gun guy in Group A. After that, a full-on fight ensued, with everyone in both groups joining in the fray. Within minutes, I heard approaching police sirens, which caused the fight to break up and both groups to run away, leaving the bleeding gun guy lying on the sidewalk. I tried to help him by staunching his bleeding. As I was doing so, I noticed a lottery ticket beside him with a letter saying that it was the winning ticket for $1 million payout. I froze. I looked around. No one was watching, so I acted, somewhat ignobly. Then I left quickly. If the police were to arrive and find me with the bleeding man, they might think that I had done it. I rushed home and fell into an easy chair, taking a deep breath of relief. While I was telling Dad about what had happened, there was a knock on the door. It was the Group A and B gangs. The spokesperson for the two groups held a knife in my direction and said, "Hand over the lottery ticket or die where you stand." Needless to say, I handed it over post-haste. But then he said, "I'm sorry, you've seen too much. You have to die." I pleaded, "But I didn't see anything, I swear." Suddenly, there was a flash from a camera, and the whole group of thugs began laughing. "You've been pranked," Dad said, as he stepped out from the crowd. My brothers were behind him laughing too. "You've been pranked," Dad said, as he stepped out from the crowd. My brothers were behind him laughing too. While relieved that my imminent death had been postponed, I was deeply saddened that I had lost my $1 million chance to get my dream factory. What rubbish.
One nice thing about success is seeing all your friends and family being so proud of you and your accomplishments. This mutual respect and appreciation is what real friendship is all about. My story is about success and friendship, and also when two friends become incompatible and no longer go hand in hand. My name is Sherry, and I'm 21 years old. I had a friend named Margot. She wasn't just my friend. She was my best friend. My sister. She meant the world to me. We were alike in so many ways, even in our hobbies, our dreams. After my dad's death, Mom and I moved to Margot's neighborhood. since her mom was my mom's best friend. I was only 3 years old at the time, so Margot and I practically grew up together. At school, we shared the same classes, studied together, and even partnered as lab partners. She and I both aspired to become pharmacists. I struggled through high school, but made it through with Margot's support and encouragement. I didn't have as much freedom and independence as she did, because my mom was too overprotective of me. It was at this point that my story really began. When I decided to join the Faculty of Pharmacy, Margot asked me why I chose that major, and I told her that my dad had died of a malignant disease that had no cure, so it was my dream to find a cure for it, to save lives. I studied hard and successfully enrolled in the Faculty of Pharmacy. Margot was very happy for me, and she promised to keep me focused on discovering that cure for Dad's fatal disease that I so passionately sought. I asked her to stay by my side the whole time, and she was happy to do so. The Faculty of Pharmacy was located abroad, so outside my country. I would be independent, free of Mom's smothering control. Frankly, I looked forward to it. Margot and I found a place to stay near the faculty, at a youth hostel with a group of girls from different countries. Unlike me, Margot was able to easily make friends with them. Our studies weren't easy at first, but we worked hard and muddled through. I was so excited to delve into my research and learn as much as I could. I queried instructors and doctors constantly to expand my knowledge. This was my beginning, and Margot stood by me the whole time. Eventually, we graduated from the faculty and launched our careers. I started at one pharmaceutical company, while she started at another. We were now competitors of a sort. In preparation for my private research, I rented a flat near my company. Margot did the same near hers. She was always asking me how my research was going. She knew I was trying to develop an antibiotic to cure Dad's deadly disease. It wasn't easy, though, because the body's immune system attacked the antibiotic and destroyed it before it could destroy the diseased cells. I had to discover a neutral substance that the immune system wouldn't attack, so that the drug could penetrate into the body far enough to find and destroy the diseased cells via chemical interactions. My first research paper was rejected, but I kept trying, and with each attempt, I would discover something new. During that time, Margot was also busy with her work. One day, she called me. She was crying because she had been fired from her work. They accused her of stealing an important research. I told her that she was so proficient in her work that she should not be sad, but rather should try and get a job at my company. I told her that I would recommend her to my manager. She hugged me and thanked me a lot, and said, "You really are the best friend ever, Sherry." The next day, I told my manager about Margot and said that she was looking for a job and was waiting outside. He interviewed her and gave her a job. I was so happy now. She and I were working at the same company. Margot continued asking me about my research, and I gave her occasional updates. I was hesitant to tell her too much, but then again, she was my best friend after all, so I invited her to my home to tell her about my research. Margot wasn't as happy as I thought she would be to hear about my progress, but I figured that was because of her recent firing. My personal research took all my time. It was even more important than my work. One day, when I reported to work, my manager told me that they didn't need me anymore, that I was being let go, fired. I was shocked and asked why. He said that I was spending too much time at home doing my private research and too little time at work. He told me he had had several letters delivered to my home, instructing me to come back to work, and that I hadn't answered him, and that I had failed to come back to work. He told me that my roommate, Margot, had received the letters on my behalf, and had promised to deliver them to me. I was shocked. I told him that she never said anything. Returning home, I confronted Margot and asked why she didn't deliver my boss's letters to me. She acted so apologetic and said that she had received the letters, but she had been so busy that she put them aside and forgotten about them. I forgave her, but I felt that she wasn't being completely honest with me. I brushed it off and told her that being fired would simply free up my time so I could spend more time on my private research. Days later, Margot called me and asked me to come celebrate with her. When I asked her what the occasion was, she said that she had gotten a promotion and taken my place at work, my former job. I was happy for her, but at the same time, I felt that there was something wrong with these circumstances, and that feeling seemed to be growing. Time passed, and my experiments finally met with success. I had succeeded in finding the drug that could destroy the diseased cells. I was over the moon. Dad would have been so proud of me. I called Margot and told her about my discovery, and she said, "Oh, Sherry, you did it! You discovered the cure!" I told her that I planned to present my research to another pharmaceutical company soon, one that was better than my previous one, the one that had fired me. She acted happy for me, but had a strange look on her face. Then I felt sleepy, and I said goodnight. She said she would be staying up for a while, so I just went to sleep. When I woke up the next morning, I found my research area in shambles, and my research data was missing. I woke Margot up and told her that someone had stolen my research last night. She said that's not possible. Who else knew about your research besides you and me? And I said, maybe it was my former manager. Maybe he had somehow guessed that I had made a breakthrough. I don't know. I called the police and reported the break-in and theft of my research data, but they couldn't find any evidence as to who the culprit might be. I returned to my home country disappointed and dejected. I got another job at a company near my house. Many months had passed. I wasn't in touch with Margot anymore. We kinda lost contact somewhere along the way. Then, one day, Mom was watching TV when she suddenly saw a program that was going to discuss a new drug that would treat and cure Dad's malignant disease. They were going to interview the discoverer of the miracle cure. I sat down enthralled. I had to watch it. When the interviewer introduced the guest speaker, it was Margot. I couldn't believe my eyes. It was her. She stole my research. My so-called best friend betrayed me, and I had treated her like a sister. It cut me deep. I took legal actions against her and got my research back and received credit for finding the cure, so that was all okay. But the one thing that could never be fixed, for which there was no cure, was the former relationship between us. She had stabbed me in the back and destroyed my faith in humanity, and I don't think I could ever find a cure for that.